What if you could measure your employer brand as a single number? What if you could track it over time? We do that. It's called the Employer Brand Index. Continuously measuring what's positive and negative about you as an employer from a candidate perspective is the key. The Employer Brand Index helps you measure your employer brand and validates your perceptions or draw up a few surprises, both good and bad. The Employer Brand Index works best when done over time to see how things are changing. Some companies use it as a baseline before they launch their EVP. Others add in some talent competitors to see how they stack up. Stay on top of your employer brand. Go to employerbrandindex.co to learn more.
Hey, sons, Vaison, it's Jürgen Sundberg here with the Employer Branding Podcast, brought to you by your friendly team here at Link Humans out of London. This is, of course, the show where we have an employer brand leader on to answer questions about their company, the talent landscape, what employer brand looks like in their organization, how it's deployed, and lots of tips and tricks along the way. With that, let's start the show. Hi, Haley. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, yes, thanks for having me. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, people in the world.
Indeed. So tell our listeners, please, who you are and what is it that you do?
Yes, so my name is Haley Della Grana. A lot of people who've been in the employer brand space probably know me as Haley Sasser, my maiden name. But yeah, I've been in the employer branding world for over 10 years now, since 2014. And I just love being in this line of work. It's really fun, don't you think?
Absolutely. Especially when you get to talk to interesting people like yourself. Right. So please tell our dear audience about the company that you're working for now.
Yes. So I work at McKesson. I've been here almost 3 years now. So it was a pretty big switch from being at software companies in the past. But McKesson is actually the 9th largest company in the US. We like to joke that it's the biggest company that no one's heard of. But we've actually been around for almost 200 years. So when I told my grandma 3 years ago that I was going to join McKesson, she actually knew what I was talking about. So that was kind of a first. But yeah, basically we're a big healthcare services leader that touches virtually every aspect of health. So most people know us for our distribution services of pharmaceuticals or medical surgical products. But we actually have our hands in a lot of different things. So oncology space, prescription technology solutions, that's our tech part of the company. And then
Yep.
lots of other things too. So it's a behemoth, but it's really exciting to help recruit for.
Yeah. Okay. So it's one of these unsung heroes, a B2B company doing great work, but sort of in the background a little bit. And I can imagine that translates into a talent challenge sometimes.
Yes, for sure. Our biggest talent challenge is that the brand awareness is pretty low. And so, like I said, a lot of people haven't heard of McKesson because we are B2B. We're not really direct to consumer unless maybe you're a nurse or someone in a hospital and you've just seen our products on the shelves. Oh, there's a McKesson, gloves and swabs and things like that. So yeah, most people in other types of roles, outside of healthcare, don't really know about us.
And what roles do you find as an organization hardest to fill?
Definitely technology roles. I think everyone can kind of agree with that, but everything in the technology space, it's always been so hard to fill those roles. The software engineers, the cybersecurity experts, architects, things like that. I think, there's just less people that go into those fields in general. And so you match that with every company needs you. It's just it's a challenge for everyone, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's then turn to McKesson's employer brand. First of all, how is this structured? What does the team look like, and who do you report to?
Yes. So my team's structure, it's really awesome because in the past I've been at slightly smaller companies, and I've always been like a team of one basically, which is kind of the story of a lot of employer brand professionals. But here it's really awesome. They've really invested in a great like employer brand team. So there's myself, I'm an individual contributor. I'm like our digital marketing strategist. We have a social media strategist. We have a video producer who she's our creative. She does all the graphic design, things like that. And then we have our leader who's the director of recruitment marketing and brand. That's her, official title. And so she actually reports into our senior director of like innovation and enablement within
Okay,
talent acquisition. So it's kind of like the TA ops arm of the TA team. And then from there, it kind of goes up to like the VP of talent acquisition. So we do sit under TA, which is really nice because we are able to know like what are the biggest hiring issues right now and like how can we address those with employer brand.
lovely. And talk us through when you started. What was the situation? Or what was the maturity of employer brand like then, and where are you now?
Yes. So when I first started, it was about almost 3 years ago. And I was lucky enough that the year before, they had actually gone through this huge EVP project where they were discovering and identifying the company's EVP. So once that was all finished up, through lots of employee surveys and panels and, um, you know, all the things that go into an EVP like research project that we all know about, they basically created our employer branding team to kind of activate the EVP that they had just established and created. So it was a really good position to be in, and really exciting because we were given like, okay, here's like the EVP guide. Here's the branding guide. Here's the colors you want to be using. Here's the positioning and the wording you want to be using. So it gave us a good framework, and we've actually been able to kind of like build it out from there, like not just staying the same over the past few years. So yeah, it was a really, really cool space to be in, and especially because McKesson was clearly like investing in its employer brand at the time. So yeah.
Amazing. And so, what is the positioning now, and how did you arrive at it?
Yes. So our positioning, our statement, I guess, if you will, is the future of health starts with you. And I think that once they went through that big EVP project, they kind of came to that purpose statement, I guess. And, they came through that through tying in our long-term strategy with kind of being, let's be forward thinking, let's be innovative and all of that. And then the EVP pillars are super important. And we try to tie that into all of the content that we create and
Mhm.
everything we do. So those three pillars are care, meaning, and belonging. And, it sounds like fluffy, but if you actually like read all of the thought and the research that went into each of these words, it's just so accurate to like how people really do feel about working here. And I think a lot of times companies think of like their EVP as like a bit more aspirational. And I think that McKesson was able to really like nail it on the head of like, this is how people truly do feel here. But yeah, so care is obviously like caring for our employees, but also like caring for each other, like as teammates. And then there's meaning, like, okay, there's meaning and impact in all the work we do. Like everything we do touches a patient life at the end of this. So people do really like take that to heart. And then of course, like belonging and cultivating an inclusive environment where everyone feels like welcome and like safe to be who they are. We've done a really good job of doing that over the years too.
Amazing. Yeah. Out of these three pillars, which one is everybody's favorite and which one is your favorite, Haley?
So I think meaning is everyone's favorite. That's the one that's like, yeah, purpose. Let's make an impact on patient lives. We have all these distribution centers across the US and Canada, and they have, these slogans in the distribution centers that say, like, it's not just a package, it's a patient. So, it's like people really do feel connected to the purpose and like what they're doing in those distribution centers. But my favorite pillar is definitely belonging because I love like inclusion, belonging, DEI. Like I'm a huge proponent of that, and so that's always going to be my top, favorite pillar.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Right. So I can imagine these three pillars along with the overriding theme. That's a big part of your activation. Can you talk us through what that looks like?
Yes, of course. So, we like to think of our work in two buckets. Like we have employer brand EVP content. That's just a lot of kind of like overall culture type stuff. And then we have our recruitment marketing, like hiring, TA focused content. But for both of those things, like we've activated our EVP with, you know, we have templates for social media posts for not just your copy suggestions, but also like the actual graphics and things themselves. We have flyers and one-pager templates that recruiters or hiring managers can use at events. We have, obviously PowerPoint decks and things like that. But that's kind of like enabling the TAs or other people to just utilize the right branding and stuff because we don't want them using the wrong things or the corporate brand for this, and you should be using the more EVP style or whatever. We have a career site blog that we launched about a year ago. That was like a huge project of mine. So that's where we're able to share like more longer form stories about employees. And, we have an employee advocacy tool that we use for sharing on social and like amplifying those posts. And then we always track things back to the career site and all that good stuff. Let's see. There's so many things. Let me see what else. We've got our CRM is really great. We use Gem. I love it. And we have all these different like talent communities in there. And so we run a lot of different like email nurture campaigns throughout the year to keep people engaged, keep them informed about everything going on. Yeah, just lots of different ways
Look,
to activate the EVP. The list just
yeah,
goes on and on.
spinning many plates there. So I'm interested in first of all, the career blog about employees. Do employees are they encouraged to write their own pieces, or do you approach them like for sort of interview style content?
Yes. So we approach them, and basically, each one can be slightly different depending on what their story is. Like sometimes it'll just be like interview Q&A back and forth, and then we ask them to fill out this Word doc with these questions, and then I go in and I make it beautiful and add photos and stuff. Sometimes it's a mixture between they've already done a video for us, and then we kind of can repurpose that into a blog. But yeah, usually we're definitely taking the lead with what's shared and what's the editing and all of that, because being at such a big company, you have to be really really careful about what you
Yeah,
say.
yeah. I knew heavily regulated industry as well. You mentioned employee advocacy. I imagine this is a program. Do you have, I mean, how many employees are part of this?
Yes. So we have an employee advocacy tool. There's a bunch out there, but
Yeah.
we have our entire talent acquisition team on it, of course, like to start. The marketing team uses this tool as well. So they're also able to share our content. And then there's also a group of the ERG, our employee resource group,
Yep.
the ERG leaders that are on there as well. So yeah, we're always looking to like expand and get more people on the tool. So that's what we're hoping to do this year is kind of expand it into more geographies and more teams as well.
And do you use any specific hashtags, like sort of culture or life hashtags that our listeners can have a look at?
Yes. So we do hashtag life at McKesson. We do hashtag team McKesson a lot. So those are the main two.
Great. And across the career blog and this advocacy program and all the content you're putting out, what tends to get the most clicks? Are there any particular styles of content or themes or individuals that people are interested in?
Yes. Yeah. So we've done a lot of different like video styles for capturing employee video, and some of them definitely work better than others, but I think it's also has to do with the timing of your post, like when it goes out in the week. So that's really interesting. But the one thing I have to say that has actually worked really well, some people might think it's cheesy, but we find it very fun, is to do these different like holidays or, springtime or like winter time or seasonal graphics. And so, um, if it's like spring forward into a new career with McKesson and there's like flowers on it and stuff, like they actually get a ton of clicks. And I'm shocked. I'm like, wow, this is this is really surprising. But looking at our social media like metrics, like those get a ton of clicks through to the career site. So some people
Amazing.
like the cheesiness, and I like it too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Gotta go with that. Okay, and yeah. So you already started talking about measuring. So, what sort of metrics do you gather and report back on?
So I put together like a monthly metrics deck that
Mhm.
takes pretty much an entire day to put together because I'm gathering different metrics from different places and putting them all into like one PowerPoint deck for for our leadership team to look at each month.
Yeah,
But it's always super helpful to look at that month over month because there's always something you catch, or there's always a question that comes forth like, oh, why is this number going up when this number is going down? And it just, even if it doesn't make you change anything or actually do anything, it's helpful to see those numbers and to understand them and to know what's going on with your employer branding, efforts. So some of the things we look at are obviously all the different like career site metrics where there's page views per month, um, engagement rate, things like that, all the things you can find in Google Analytics. But we also look at obviously our social media posts, metrics, what's performing the best, what's getting the most engagement. We look at LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed, like all of those different platforms to see, okay, how are we fluctuating over time? Like, what does this look like compared to a year ago at the same time frame? Um, so looking at, the page views and the engagement on those platforms. And then, of course, our email campaigns through our CRM, looking at open rates, things like that. And then obviously, I think the biggest one for my leadership is always like, what are we spending the money on, which is typically our like programmatic media campaigns.
Mhm.
So they really like to see what's going on with those, the programmatic jobs, the display ads, things like that. So yeah, all
Yeah.
sorts of things to
So,
measure.
yeah, so they're interested in the ad spend. Is that because they want to reduce it, or because they want to see perhaps where the candidate flow is going to come?
Oh yeah, I feel they always want to reduce the spend if it's makes sense, you know. Um, but
Mm,
I think it's mostly to see like what's working and what's not,
yes.
because
Yeah.
we can always, oh, if we're spending money on this type of programmatic job campaign, but like, what are we actually getting from that? You know, looking at not only the performance of those campaigns, but also seeing like how tracking that all the way through to like applications and even hires is something to look at. Like I always try to steer away from those more like hired metrics, because it's not like employer branding's job to get people all the way through the interview process and hired. Like there's no way for us to know that who's going to get through all the way, because there's always some hiring manager that has, you know, interviewing practices that might be like, oh, well, we were just going to give this job to this person no matter what. So I always try to stick with the more of like top of funnel metrics and
Yeah.
just kind of down through like applications. And we're starting to look at like quality of applicant too. So that's been a challenge as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it says as an employer brand manager, there are some things you can influence, but there's a lot of things you cannot. So it's probably best to focus on your circle of influence there. So beyond that, Haley, do you have any other top tips for employer brand professionals tuning into this episode right now?
Yes. So I have two tips. I'll keep it really short. My first tip is for employer brand professionals to be not just easy to work with, but you need to be a joy to work with. Like you need to be someone that people are excited to hear from, or if they don't know who you are, get them on your side immediately. There's so much collaboration in the employer branding space. Like you have to constantly be collaborating with others and creating content and all this stuff. And a lot of people, they don't want to create content. They don't want to be in a video. Like they're like, I'm a customer service person or I'm a software engineer. Like this isn't my forte, but helping them and getting them comfortable. Not everyone needs to be on camera. Like you can explain to people that, hey, we want to share your story. It could just be like a written blog, or we could do a quote card or something. But being easy to work with and just being fun to work with is my biggest tip. And my second tip is just to stay on top of all the recent developments, like in the employer branding space, follow
Mhm.
leaders in the space, get those emails from all the different, the CRMs, the ATSs, the agencies, like sign up for those email lists, because they send out like really good information about what's going on in the employer branding world and kind of what are the trends are. Um, so I'm always signing up for those emails and learning.
Great. So let me follow up on that second tip there. What would be the best email subscription or community to be in?
I would have to say, I mean, my friend James Ellis, he had a
Yes,
email list
James.
for a long time. Um, I feel like he might have discontinued it, but that's probably still out there, all the archives of his emails. And then I think signing up for your specific, whatever your ATS or your CRM is, like sign up for those like marketing emails, because that's specific to the product that you're using.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Great. So, Haley, you've been in this sort of function for about 10 years now. Is that right? Yep.
Yeah, I guess this summer it'll be 12. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Okay. Once
teaching
time flies.
people.
Yeah. Okay. So, what is that makes your job so special?
I mean, I think for most of us and most of the people I meet in the employer branding space, like we all kind of have the same feeling that this is great. We're not selling like a little product or a service to people. Like we're selling life-changing opportunities potentially. Like we're selling jobs to people. And I think that's just such a great opportunity because it's really impactful and it's more than just selling like a consumer product to a person. Like you're able to share really, hey, here's this job opportunity that could really make your, work-life balance better or your compensation better or your leadership support and development and growth opportunities. So, yeah, I just think being able to sell something like that is really impactful.
Absolutely. Right. My final question. Where can listeners connect with yourself and where can we all learn more about McKesson's employer brand?
Yes, so people can follow me on LinkedIn, Haley Della Grana, and you can also join the McKesson's talent community. You can get a lot of amazing emails from me because I create those emails. But you can join that talent community easily by just going to our career site, careers.mckesson.com, and it's a button right at the top of the page.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Haley.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, folks, there we have it. Be sure to reach out to our guest with any questions or just to connect. You can find this episode and the entire back catalogue over at employerbrandingpodcast.com, along with articles summarizing what we have learned. And if you, just like many of my dear interviewees, are interested in measuring employer brand, be sure to check out the Employer Brand Index. Of course, providing unbiased employer brand insights driven by data. It's trusted by some of the greatest companies in the world, and you can find it at linkhumans.com. Or why not get in touch with me and I'll tell you all about it as well. That is it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in and catch you next time. Hey,
Okay, so this is a stolen joke from a comedian named Dimitri Martin, but it goes, someone waved to me on the street and stopped and said, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were someone else." And I said, "I am."